Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Today, we're going to tell a story unlike any other, a story that shook every household in the Tabaleen neighborhood of Shibin Al-Qanater and left the people of Kalyubia Governorate in complete shock. Everyone was asking, how can a human heart become so hardened? Imagine this with me. A normal day, June 2nd, 2019. People were going about their lives until a sharp scream shattered the silence. People rushed over and gathered around something strange lying by the roadside. A man wearing a light galabeya but looking anything but normal. Blood soaked the ground around him, and his body was covered in deep wounds. Not just one or two, but 11 stab wounds, each one telling a story of hatred and deep rage. That man was Mohammed Saeed, a carpenter in his 30s. A kind man, loved by everyone, neighbors, friends, and his workshop customers. No one could have imagined that someone like Mohammed, always smiling and helping others, would meet such a brutal end. Who could do something like this to him, and why? What could drive someone to the point of ending a life with 11 stab wounds? This story, my friends, isn't just a crime. It's a long journey full of mystery, betrayal, buried secrets, and countless unanswered questions. We're going to tell you everything. From the moment Mohammed Saeed started dreaming of a peaceful life, all the way to the final verdict in the case. So get ready, put your headphones on. This is going to be a long journey, and it'll take us deep into a whirlwind of events. And before we dive into the story, don't forget to like and share this episode so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you're a fan of Indian stories, subscribe to the other channel so you don't miss anything new. You'll find the link in the description box. Without further delay, let's dive deep into our story. In December 2018, Mohammed Saeed was just an ordinary young man from Kalyubia Governorate. A skilled carpenter with a small workshop in the Tabaleen area, he worked there with great passion. He used to spend hours carving wood, making chairs, tables, doors, windows, all by hand. He loved his craft. Mohammed was a simple man who avoided trouble. If a neighbor had a broken wardrobe, he would go fix it himself, often without asking for any money. If a friend or relative needed help, he'd give from his own pocket without hesitation. The neighbors loved him and would always say, "Mohammed is like a brother to me." His family was proud of him, but his mother, like any Egyptian mom, dreamed of seeing him married, living in his own home and settled down. One day in December 2018, she sat with him in the living room and said, "So, Mohammed, aren't you thinking of getting married? Time is flying by, and we want to celebrate you." Mohammed laughed loudly and said, "Mom, I don't even know how to look for a girl. I'm just a carpenter. This stuff isn't my thing. If you find someone decent, I'm in." His mother smiled and said, "All right, leave it to me. I'll find you a good girl." Mohammed's mother didn't waste any time. She started asking around the neighborhood, talking to neighbors, and searching in nearby areas like Abu Zabal and El Kanka. She asked the women in the market and spoke to anyone who might know a good girl. A few weeks later, she heard about Aya Ashour, a 23-year-old girl from Abu Zabal. Aya wore the hijab, was calm, and had a spotless reputation. Her family was well respected in their village and known for their good character. Mohammed's mother felt that Aya could be the perfect wife for her son. She told Mohammed, "I found a quiet, respectful girl, and her family is really decent." Mohammed, trusting his mother's judgment, replied, "All right, Mom, let's go see her." In late December 2018, Mohammed's mother took him to visit Aya's family. The meeting was simple, as is customary in their village. Mohammed saw Aya, a modest girl, wearing a clean hijab, speaking softly and politely. They spoke a few words. Mohammed told her, "I'm a simple man. I work as a carpenter, and I dream of a peaceful life with my future wife." Aya nodded and said, "I love peace and quiet too." Mohammed felt that she was comfortable with him, and Aya seemed to agree. There was a sense of compatibility between them, or at least that's what Mohammed believed. Their families talked, agreed on everything: the engagement ring, the dowry, and all the other details. They decided that the engagement would take place in January 2019. In January 2019, the engagement was a small celebration at Aya's family home. People came to offer their congratulations, and Mohammed was overjoyed. He bought a simple gold engagement ring and told his friends, "I've finally found the woman who will be my life partner." He spoke fondly of how calm and respectful Aya was, and how hopeful he felt about the future. His family was happy, and Mohammed's mother prayed for him. "May God bless you, my son. Aya is a good girl." The neighbors all gave their blessings, saying, "Mohammed is a kind man, and Aya will be a sweet wife." Everyone was optimistic, and Mohammed began dreaming of a peaceful life with Aya. He went to his workshop every day, working extra hours to save money for the home. He'd tell his friends, "I want to buy nice things for the apartment so Aya will be happy." In March 2019, they officially signed the marriage contract in a modest celebration. Mohammed bought a simple jewelry set and prepared a small apartment in a building near his family's home in the Tabaleen area. The apartment was humble, but Mohammed put all his effort into it. He would tell Aya, "The house is small now, but God willing, we'll build it up together." Aya looked at him and smiled, saying, "Okay, I'm content." Everyone thought their life would go like any normal marriage: a home, stability, and children. But the truth was hiding a big secret. After the marriage in March 2019, Mohammed Saeed and Aya began their life in the new apartment. Mohammed would go to his workshop every day, work long hours, then return home trying to make his wife happy. He often brought her small gifts and would say, "I got you something you like, Aya." Aya thanked him, but there was something in her eyes Mohammed couldn't understand. She would respond with a few words, then go silent again. On the outside, she seemed like any ordinary housewife. She visited her family in Abu Zaabal every few weeks, then returned to stay at home. Neighbors saw her as quiet, always greeting them with a soft smile, and no one suspected a thing. But inside the home, Aya was living in another world. As she later revealed during investigations, she never loved Mohammed. She had been in love with another young man before the marriage, but the relationship didn't last. Her mother pressured her to marry Mohammed and told her, "If you refuse, it'll be a scandal. We're a respectable family, and Mohammed is a good man." Aya felt trapped and reluctantly agreed. Every day felt like a year in prison. Before the marriage, Aya lived a different life. She had fallen for a young man from her area. They used to talk, and she saw him as her future. They dreamed of marrying, but her family rejected him because his financial situation was modest. Her mother said, "He won't be able to give you a good life. Mohammed Saeed is better for you." Aya tried to argue, but her mother insisted, "If you say no, it'll be a disaster. What will people say?" Aya was young and scared of her family's pressure. She agreed to marry Mohammed, but her heart belonged to someone else. Every time she looked at Mohammed, she remembered her former lover and felt like she had lost everything. In late April 2019, problems started to become clear. Mohammed felt that Aya was not the same as before. She began to distance herself from him, and whenever he tried to talk to her, she would quickly shut the subject down. One time, He sat with her in the living room and said, "What's wrong, Aya? If something is bothering you, tell me. I want you to be comfortable." Aya looked at him and said in a low voice, "Nothing. I'm just tired." Mohammed tried to be patient, but he felt something was wrong. He would go to his mother and complain, saying, "Mom, Aya is always silent. I don't know how to make her happy." His mother would calm him, saying, "Be patient, son. Marriage is like that in the beginning. She's still getting used to you." But Aya was farther from him than he imagined. She felt trapped in a life she did not want. In May 2019, the situation worsened. Aya began to get nervous, and Mohammed felt she was avoiding him. One time, he came home and found her sitting alone in the living room, silent. He said to her, "Aya, do you want to visit your family tomorrow?" She quickly replied, "No, I don't want to." Mohammed tried to start a conversation, but she said, "Leave me alone." Mohammed was upset but stayed quiet. He was trying to find a way to get closer to her, but Aya was building a wall between them. One day in May, Mohammed brought her a gift, a blue dress, her favorite color. He said, "Look, Aya, I got you this dress. It's good for special occasions." Aya took the dress, looked at him coldly, and said, "Thank you." Mohammed felt she wasn't interested but tried to stay optimistic. He told himself, "She's just still adjusting to the new life." On May 30th, 2019, a big fight broke out between them. Mohammed came home and found Aya sitting in the living room with an upset face. He said, "We're not living like a married couple. Tell me, what's the problem?" Aya got angry and said, "I don't want you, Mohammed. I married you against my will." Mohammed was shocked by her words and said, "How can you say that? I've been trying to make you happy since the day we got married." Aya replied loudly, "My mother threatened me if I didn't agree. I never wanted this marriage." Mohammed felt like the ground was shaking beneath him. He said, "What do you mean? You're living with me and you don't want me?" Aya said, "These last 2 months have felt like years to me." Mohammed tried to calm himself and said, "If you don't want me, just say so and we can end this. But how can you say something like that?" Aya didn't answer, but her eyes were full of anger. Mohammed left her and went to sleep with a broken heart. But Aya did not sleep. She stayed in the living room, thinking, and her anger grew inside her. On June 1st, 2019, Mohammed Saeed came home late from his workshop. He was tired but tried to be kind. He said to Aya, "How about we go out tomorrow? Change the atmosphere?" Aya sat silently, her face stone cold. She said, "I don't want to." Mohammed tried to get close to her, but she exploded and said, "I don't love you, Mohammed. My mother threatened me to marry you." Mohammed was very upset and said, "I won't force you on anything. If you don't want me, just say so, and we can be done." But Aya didn't reply. Mohammed left her and went to sleep. But Aya had decided that this night would be the end. She stayed in the living room, her anger burning like fire. She thought about every moment she lived with Mohammed and felt she couldn't continue. She remembered her mother's words, "Mohammed is a good man. He will give you a good life." But she did not see that good life. She saw herself trapped in a life she did not want, and she decided she had to get rid of him. In the middle of the night, when she confirmed that Mohammed was sleeping like a stone, she quietly went into the kitchen. She opened the knife drawer and took out a sharp knife, the one she used to cut vegetables. She paused for a moment, looking at the knife, her hand trembling. She returned to the bedroom and stood beside the bed. She was looking at Mohammed as he slept, thinking, "If I don't do this, I will remain trapped with him." Without much more thought, she raised the knife and stabbed him, not once or twice, 11 times in his chest, back, and stomach. The blood flooded the bed, and the crime was so brutal that Mohammed's internal organs came out of his body. Aya stood frozen, the knife still in her hand, unable to believe what she had done. Her heart was pounding fast and her mind was blank. After a few minutes, she got scared and threw the knife on the floor. Aya called her cousin Sabah and said, "Come quickly, help me." Her voice was terrified. Sabah, who was sleeping at her home, woke up and said, "What's wrong, Aya?" "What happened?" Aya said, "Not now, come right away." Sabah quickly got dressed and arrived at the apartment around 2 a.m. on June 2, 2019. When she opened the door, she saw blood everywhere and Mohammed's corpse on the bed. She screamed, "What is this disaster? What have you done?" Aya stood as if frozen and said, "I didn't know what to do. I had to get rid of him." Sabah tried to calm her down and said, "We have to act. We can't leave the body like this." Aya shook her head and said, "Yes, we have to throw it far away." The two of them, in a moment of panic, decided to get rid of the body. They started pulling Mohammed's body off the bed. They quietly took it down the stairs, afraid someone would wake up. They reached the third floor and threw the body outside next to the building. Why didn't they go down to the first floor? Because Mohammed's family lived there, and they were afraid someone would hear them. Sabah took the knife and Mohammed's phone and said, "I will get rid of these." Aya returned to the apartment and started cleaning the stairs in the house. She tried to wipe the blood, but the bed was soaked. She covered it with a blanket and thought that the matter was over. On the morning of June 2, 2019, early, one of the neighbors, while leaving her house, saw Mohammed's body thrown near the building. She screamed, and people gathered. Everyone was shocked. One of the neighbors said, "That's Mohammed Saeed. How did this happen?" Another said, "He was just laughing with us yesterday." The police arrived quickly and took the body to the morgue. The forensic report, released on June 3, 2019, confirmed that Mohammed died from 11 stab wounds and that the crime happened hours before the body was discovered. The police immediately began investigating. They questioned Mohammed's family, who were in shock. They said, "We left him sleeping in his apartment with his wife, Aya. How did he get downstairs? How did he die?" His mother was crying and said, "My son didn't deserve this. He was good. He loved everyone." His father said, "Mohammed had no enemies. Who would do this to him?" The police went to talk to Aya, who was in a state of collapse. She was wearing a fuchsia galabeya, her hair down, crying and saying, "He's my love. I won't be able to live without him. We've only been married for 2 months." Everyone believed her, and she was playing the role of the broken wife very well. When the police asked if she suspected anyone, she said she woke up at dawn on June 2 and found Mohammed getting dressed. She asked him, "Where are you going?" He told her, "I'm going to meet one of my friends." She told the police, "I don't know who, but it must be one of his friends who did this." The police started investigating Mohammed's friends. They spoke to his closest friends who worked with him at the workshop. Everyone confirmed that Mohammed was a good man and had no enemies. Meanwhile, the police began to suspect something was wrong with Aya's story. On June 3, 2019, the police decided to search Mohammed and Aya's apartment. Everything seemed normal until they entered the bedroom. They found a blanket on the bed. Strange. Why a blanket in the summer when it was hot? When they asked Aya, she started to get nervous, stammered, and her face changed color. The police removed the blanket and found the bed soaked in blood. At that moment, Aya couldn't escape. They arrested her the same day and began questioning her. At first, she kept saying, "I'm innocent. I have nothing to do with it." But the officer questioning her said, "How is this blood in the apartment? How did Mohammed get downstairs if he was sleeping here?" Aya tried to avoid the question, saying, "I don't know. Maybe someone entered the house." But the police didn't believe her. After many questions and pressure, Aya broke down on June 4, 2019, and confessed that she was the one who killed Mohammed. She said she never loved him and that she married him against her will because her mother threatened her. She said Mohammed was violent and threatened her with a knife to do what he wanted. However, Mohammed's neighbors and family said this was nonsense. One neighbor told the police, Mohammed treated Aya like a queen. He was always bringing her gifts. His mother said, my son would never raise his hand against his wife. He loved her very much. The police learned from Aya that she had called her cousin Sabah after the crime. They went to question Sabah on June 5, 2019. At first, Sabah denied everything, saying, I don't know anything. But the neighbors confirmed they saw her leaving Aya's apartment at night looking confused. The police pressured her and said, we know you were with Aya. Tell the truth. Eventually, Sabah confessed. She said Aya called her and that she went to help her dispose of the body. She showed them where the knife and Mohammed's phone were hidden. The investigations continued for several days. Aya and Sabah were presented to the prosecutor, and their detention was renewed for 4 more days pending investigation. At the court, which lasted for months, Aya tried to defend herself. Her lawyer said she was under psychological pressure and that Mohammed was violent. He said that Aya married against her will and that she was suffering. But the neighbors and Mohammed's family testified against her. One of Mohammed's friends said, Mohammed used to tell me he loved Aya and he used to bring her everything. His mother was crying in court, saying, my son was a good man. He didn't deserve what happened to him. The prosecution presented strong evidence: the blood on the bed, the knife found by the police, and the confessions of Aya and Sabah. By late 2020, the court issued its verdict. Aya was sentenced to death by hanging for intentional murder. Sabah, being an accomplice, received a reduced sentence, but there are no clear details about the length of her imprisonment. This story, guys, is not just a crime story. It's a story about broken dreams and uncovered secrets. Mohammed was a young man who dreamed of a quiet life, a small house, and a happy family. But it ended in a horrific tragedy. Aya, a 23-year-old girl, decided to end her life in the wrong way. And Sabah, who was just her cousin, found herself involved in a crime she never planned. This story reminds us that life can change in an instant, but does that justify a crime like this? What could make a girl like Aya reach the point of grabbing a knife and stabbing her husband 11 times? Was she really a victim of her family's pressure? Or was there something else inside her, hidden hatred or anger? And why did Sabah agree to help Aya? Was she scared? Or did she want to protect her cousin? The neighbors talked a lot after the crime. One of them said, Aya was quiet, but we felt she wasn't happy. Another said, Mohammed loved her very much. He always brought her gifts. Mohammed's family still cries every time they remember their son. His mother said, my son dreamed of having kids, but his dreams ended. This story leaves us with many questions. What do you think is the reason behind what happened? Was Aya a victim, or did she choose this path? Write your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to pray for Mohammed Saeed's soul and for patience for his family. And that's the end of today's episode. If this is your first time watching the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you get all the new updates. See you in a new episode. Goodbye.